Hello and welcome to another episode of Meet the Red Cross. I'm Dave Griffith, the Executive Director of the Heart of Missouri Chapter. And on today's show, I have two guests. Our first guest is Kyna Iman, and Kyna is our legislative consultant, better known as lobbyist, for the Red Cross. She'll be joining us on the first half of the show to talk to us about upcoming legislative ventures that we're going to have in this upcoming session. And then on the second half of our show, we're going to have Clayton Kennedy, our community market manager, is going to be back with us again this month. Who's going to be talking to us about some of the activities we have during the holiday season and some of our upcoming activities we're going to have for this coming year. So, kind of welcome to the show and welcome to Meet the Red Cross.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Well, glad to have you here. And what we do on, really to start off our show every time, we just get a little bit of information about our guest. And so you might just tell us a little bit about Kyna Iman.
Okay, well, I've been lobbying at the Missouri State Capitol for over 25 years and have been lobbying on behalf of American Red Cross issues for the last 5. So enjoy working with you guys. And
are you originally from around here, or where did you grow up?
I grew up north of Columbia, Missouri, in Salisbury, okay. But I went to school at William Woods University, just up the road in Fulton, and did several internships at the state capitol. Kind of got hooked on politics, and I'm still here.
Well, and I know we talk about it, and I know and Kyna and I talked before we got on the air that there's a lot of negative that connotations around lobbyists, but lobbyists and really consultants are what you do for organizations like the American Red Cross are really invaluable, aren't they?
I've been very fortunate to work on behalf of, I like to say feel-good groups, because they're groups that are very necessary to the community, and non-for-profits especially. There are a lot of bills and legislation that come down the pike that you would normally associate with an organization like the American Red Cross, but issues from taxes, election dates, donations, healthcare issues, volunteer services bills, all those affect the American Red Cross. So we play a lot of defense, but we've been very successful in the last couple of years in passing some bills on our behalf.
So when you look at what the upcoming session, and not anyone in particular, but when you look at those, and what is your job as far as the Red Cross goes, when you start looking at all the legislation that's coming down the pike or that's going to be proposed in that coming year, how do you view that, and then what are your next steps after you've seen something that might really affect us?
Well, a lot of people think the session just runs January through May, but as you know, I meet with you throughout the summer in the interim. We talk to legislators and different organizations to try to get their support for upcoming legislation, meet with legislative research and get that drafted. And just last week, December 1st, was the first day for pre-filing legislation, and so I've already begun to start reading all the bills that have been filed, and I flag them for you guys to read if there's an issue that I think that we should be following or keeping an eye on during session. And so that's kind of the process, but in the meantime, we have to get sponsors for our legislation that we're proposing as well, which takes a lot of time to kind of get your state rep or state senator up to speed on how they can help the American Red Cross.
Let's talk about some successes that we've had in the past, and then I want to move from that and transition into what we're going to be looking at and what we're going to be doing in this upcoming session. But tell us about some of the things that you've seen some success for the Red Cross, and really what impact that can have on Missourians.
Well, I know that the American Red Cross relies heavily on volunteers and on donations to make your office a success and attending to disasters. And so the first year I lobbied for the American Red Cross, we were successful in passing the tax checkoff bill, which would allow people to easily donate funding or extra income on their income tax return to the American Red Cross. And so that's being collected through the Department of Revenue. And then last year, or 2 years ago, we were successful in passing the license plate bill. So if volunteers want to obtain a American Red Cross license plate, you'll benefit from a percentage of those proceeds. So both of those things are always looking for ways to get more money for you to do your job. And then one thing that we're looking at and have been working on in the past, but are still making headway on is, as you know, the CPR in the schools, trying to get as many life-saving skills for our students before they graduate. And so the American Red Cross does those programs the best, and we were just trying to work with the school superintendents, school boards. I know there's always a price tag attached to when you mandate certain items in schools, and we don't want to, do anything that would prohibit them from being able to physically operate, but at the same time, we think these are skills that need to be learned.
Absolutely, and that's one thing that when we looked at in Government Relations Committee that we serve on, that's one thing that we talked about. Well, how can we provide the greatest impact on Missourians through legislation that we can pass? And those life-saving skills that Kyna is talking about with CPR and learning know how to operate an AED, an automated external defibrillator, and knowing basic first aid, those are just life skills that we feel like that every student that graduates from high school should have at their disposal. And like you said, when we use that word mandate, and mandate means that you must do that.
Right.
And that's something that really puts restrictions on the delivery of that service. And so it is kind of going back and forth with them to try and determine how we can get the language that everybody's going to be happy with.
Right, and sometimes when you introduce legislation, it's to kind of make a point. There are a lot of bills that get introduced that don't get passed, but get resolved with various departments because you planted that seed in their minds. And Department of Elementary and Secondary Education may say to school districts, why aren't you doing this? We're not going to mandate you to do it, but if it saves a child's life, that maybe you should be looking at that. And we have had success. I think you said Parkway. A lot of schools are already doing that in the area. So,
well, and that kind of transitions into what we're going to be doing for this next coming year. We've got two pieces of legislation that we're looking at sponsoring, and one is on September the 1st every year of having that as Red Cross Blood Day.
Correct.
And you might talk about that just for a minute.
Right, we're already lining up sponsors in the House and the Senate, and last year there was a Sickle Cell Awareness Day that was designated, and I know our Blood Services Division works very hard on getting people to donate blood, so we thought if Missouri designated one day of the year to really focus on that and publicize that we would get more blood donations through that. So we're going to ask the legislature this session to help us designate, like you said, September 1st as that day.
And that does a couple of things. I mean, obviously there's always a need for blood, but it fulfills that purpose. But it also gets the name of the Red Cross out there, and it makes people aware that we're doing something every day, not just during major disasters as well.
Absolutely.
So the second piece of legislation that we're talking about is ready rated schools. This is ready rating is something that was piloted out of the St. Louis region and now is spread all over the country and actually all over the world. But the assessment that corporations and individuals take lets them know how ready they are if a disaster were to happen. And how do you see that as benefiting? And you mentioned Parkway School and out of the St. Louis area. How do you see that as a benefit?
Well, one of the main goals of the American Red Cross is not only to respond to disasters, but if you can prepare people ahead of time, like you said, to be prepared when a disaster hits, it's just so much easier for your volunteers to do their jobs. So it's a great program, as you know, online that schools can go on, businesses, individuals, even in their homes now can go on, and it gives you a whole grocery list of items you should have. It designates areas of your home that in case there's a tornado or if there's a fire where you can go to. And so it's a fabulous program, and it's very user-friendly. And I think, like you said, once again, it's just publicizing and getting the word out. Everybody knows the American Red Cross, but I don't know that everybody knows this new program, Ready Rating. So a lot of the schools are coming on board, and we would like to meet with the State Board of Education to try to publicize that more in all the schools.
Well, I think one of the things that and it really precipitated this for me, because I was able to, I started shortly after the tornado in Joplin. And so there were a lot of videos that came that were shown of what happened at Joplin High School when the tornado went through there. And I know when I was going to school, part of the tornado drill was that we brought everybody out in the hallway and we sat right against the wall and we put our heads down and all that. And what we saw from that video was that those hallways became corridors for flying debris and flying desks and everything. So perhaps being prepared that way wasn't such a good idea to have kids go outside, so we need to revisit that.
Right.
And we feel like that the Red Cross has got the ability and the expertise to be able to help schools and businesses and corporations and individuals be resilient and be able to recover from those type of situations.
All right.
But I want to thank you. We're out of time already. It goes by so quickly, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
But I want to thank you. I truly do want to thank you for what you do for the Red Cross and what you do on the Hill. I know that we couldn't get a lot done without you,
well,
and the amount of time that you spend on that, so we appreciate it.
Thank you for being my star witness when I need somebody to come over and testify.
I'm glad to do that. Kyna, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Clayton Kennedy, our Community Market Manager, will be back to talk with us in just a few minutes.
So my uncle calls and he says he's dizzy and he's losing his balance. I'm like, Unc, you want me to take you to a doctor? He's like, no, I'm gonna look up the symptoms. I said, your symptoms are you're dizzy and you're losing your balance. So he said, I can't get on the internet because my arm is numb. I said, well, use your good arm and dial 911. Stroke's no joke. If you or someone you love is showing symptoms of stroke, don't wait because it might be too late. Dial 911. Time lost is brain lost.
I want to see the world.
When you pick up a book
I used to read every night to all the younger kids.
and let your imagination break free, you won't believe how much fun it can be.
Let down your house!
Experience a world of adventure, excitement, and endless possibilities. Get tangled up in a good book. Explore new worlds. Read. Visit read.gov today.
Welcome back to Meet the Red Cross. I'm Dave Griffith, the Executive Director of the Heart of Missouri Chapter, and joining us for the second half of our show is Clayton Kennedy, and Clayton is no stranger to Meet the Red Cross. He's our Community Market Manager serving the 21 counties that we have. And so Clayton, welcome back to Meet the Red Cross.
Pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
You've been working on, for the last month or month and a half, you've been working on a very special program that the Red Cross has at this particular time of the year. You might tell us about Holiday Mail for Heroes.
Absolutely. Holiday Mail for Heroes is a wonderful initiative that the Red Cross began in the mid-2000s to collect holiday cards for our troops that are deployed abroad, as well as our veterans here in the United States. Through the years, they've collected over 6 million cards nationally. Last year, the Heart of Missouri chapter of the Red Cross participated for the first time, and we collected about 750 cards last year. This year, we did it up in a much bigger way. We got many other community partners involved, over a dozen schools involved. We had more public signing events, and we ultimately collected nearly 5 times what we collected last year. Our final tally is 3,537 cards.
You know, really, and I've had a chance to look at some of these cards, and the ones that were, we partnered up. I guess I'll back up. We partnered up with the St. Louis Rams this year to purchase the cards for us, They sent us about 1,000 cards, and 900 of those that were signed were the St. Louis Rams cards with Chris Long on them. So the bulk of them were either homemade cards or they were cards that were bought through Hallmark or other organizations. But those that really meant the most to me were the ones that the elementary school kids did. And
incredible, incredible cards. Over 2,000 homemade cards from youth at various ages, from elementary students up to high school students. I need to acknowledge the Hickman High School Red Cross Club. They were a huge participant in this. They spent a week collecting cards in the school, so high schoolers writing out cards, but they also worked with 3 different elementary schools in Columbia and collected another 1,000 homemade cards. And children, of course, just have such wild creativity. There were cards with pop-out elements, there were cutouts, lots of drawings, many different poems. All of them, however, all of them had very heartfelt messages, very beautiful messages to our soldiers and to our veterans, thanking them for their service, thanking them for giving us the opportunity to celebrate the holidays in peace and comfort and security in our own homes. So.
Well, and we had a couple of card signings that we had one at Columbia Mall, and we had another card signing at the Capitol Mall. Then we had a card signing at a concert. But and I want you to talk about that just in just a minute. But the one thing that I think was common about this that I saw and really warmed my heart was that parents were sitting down there at the tables with their children, and they were explaining what we were doing. And that we were sending a card to a soldier who was serving our country. And those kind of life lessons are ones that we have, in my opinion, that we have far too few of. And it gives us an opportunity to teach our children and to teach the next generation the importance of supporting our military.
And I would even say that it also gives the opportunity for the reverse. One of the things that warmed my heart was oftentimes when we had these public card signings, it would be the children dragging their parents over to the table and saying, no, I want to do this. And the parents are like, I got to shop. And they're like, no, this is important. And so then the parents would come over. And of course, then the parents would sit down too and sometimes even tear up as they were writing these messages. So really just a beautiful program that the Red Cross provides, and for us, a wonderful opportunity to engage with different sectors of the community, with different groups in the community. We also worked with a lot of businesses that got all their employees to sign. One business took over 300 cards and gave big packets to each employee to go home and get more signed. So just a great opportunity to engage with the community, and then, of course, to provide a little cheer to our soldiers and our veterans. It was such a delight reading through the cards and picturing a soldier deployed in Afghanistan or somewhere, opening up a box of these cards and just knowing that there were children in the Midwest who were thinking of them and writing these poems and drawing these illustrations for them. So beautiful.
Well, I know how important that is. I, being a veteran, and when I was stationed overseas, we had mail call every day, and there were so often times during mail call that many of us did not get cards or did not get letters from home. I was blessed to have a family that during the holiday season sent me care packages. They're only chocolate chip cookies that were crumbs by the time that they got to me, but
I bet you ate those crumbs.
But I ate every one of them. But I think that, and that really, this particular program is so close to my heart, because I saw so many of my friends that didn't get cards, that were not remembered during the holidays. And as much as you try and be macho and man up about it, it was still very hard.
Oh, sure.
And so now knowing that many of these veterans that we're sending cards, they're not going to just get one card, they're going to get a multiple number of cards. And not only do we do this, do we send them to soldiers overseas, but we also hand deliver them to the VA hospital and to our 2 veterans homes. You might talk about that, Clayton.
Sure. So in our Heart of Missouri chapter, we've got a VA hospital, the Truman Hospital here in Columbia. Then we've got VA homes in Mexico and St. James. and we will be working with different volunteers, maybe even a youth group, to take handfuls of cards around to the different rooms and individually thank the soldiers and veterans for their service and wish them happy holidays. So it's something that we've done several times in the past and has just been a really beautiful event, getting to individually hear their stories and see their gratitude as they open up these cards.
Well, we're taping this on December the 4th, and this is the last day. We're mailing them all off to Washington, D.C. And you might talk about that process.
Sure.
It's kind of a sad commentary, but it's also a necessary commentary.
Absolutely. We send them off to an office in Washington, D.C. where they will individually look at every single card. Last year there was 1.6 million cards, so that's a big operation. And they'll just scan them to make sure that the messages are appropriate and that they include no harmful or dangerous substances. We just want to be extra sure that we're sending holiday cheer and nothing more than that. So
that's good. That's good. Now, we mentioned that we had a concert.
Yeah.
Where we had a card signing event. You might talk to us about that and how that all came about.
Sure. Well, in 2005, or Christmas Eve 2004, there was a major tsunami that hit Southeast Asia, and the Midwest-born, Missouri-born country music superstar Sarah Evans was really taken by the breadth and depth of the Red Cross response to that. And so she joined the National Celebrity Cabinet of the Red Cross. And so since 2005, Sarah Evans has been a member of our cabinet. And in November, she scheduled a concert in Columbia at Jesse Hall. We asked, and she said, awesome. She wanted us to be there as a part of that concert, to be set up in front and getting the different concert goers to sign cards for veterans. So it was a wonderful event. We got several hundred cards signed, and we're just so proud to be associated with
you might talk about the Sarah Evans van.
Well, thank you. Yes, one of the things that Sarah Evans did years ago was when she joined the National Celebrity Cabinet, we actually put her image. She wanted us to put her image on one of our emergency response vehicles, a regional support vehicle. So we have one of the big old ambulance-like vehicles that we use to give out support items and comfort kits after a big disaster, has Sarah Evans' image on the side, asking Mid-Missouri if you're Red Cross ready. And so we had that pulled up right to the stairs at the entrance of Jesse Hall. And so as concert goers walked in, they saw Sarah Evans on the van, they saw her image inside, and they saw our table collecting cards for the veterans and soldiers. So it was a wonderful event.
It really was, and I think that when you're standing there and you're greeting folks to come up, a lot of them would say, well, what am I supposed to write? Well, if all you do is just write thank you, then that's more than enough. But Clayton, I want to thank you for handling that, the Holiday Mail for Heroes. We look forward to that again this year, and I'm sorry if many of you did not get to participate in that, but it'll be coming around next year. We're going to be doing the same thing. So one thing that is still uppermost in a lot of people's minds around here in the Midwest is the typhoon in Haiyan. You might give us an update on that, and we've also been responding to some tornadoes over in Illinois. But let's talk about Typhoon Haiyan first.
Sure. Well, it was obviously just a devastating event. Nearly 6,000 deaths and over 1 million people whose homes were damaged or completely destroyed. The Global Red Cross Network has been responding to this in a very, very full way. With an international disaster like this, we always prioritize what the needs of that country are and that local national chapter of the Red Cross. So the Philippines has their own Red Cross. They have asked the American Red Cross and other Global Red Cross Network members to come in and support in different areas. And so 13 different American Red Cross volunteers are actively on the ground right there, right now. 130 from the global network. The American Red Cross has already committed over $16 million to the response effort, and the numbers are vast. I mean, we've over 500,000 people we've provided food to, we've provided water to. I think about 30,000 people we have provided actual cleanup kits with tarps and mops and water and hygiene kits. Right now they're reaching about 4,500 new people every single day. So right now the infrastructure is just getting to the point where we can go out and reach some of those harder hit areas, and we are. The American Red Cross is supporting the Philippine Red Crosses as they respond to every need that they can find there.
You know, early on during this typhoon, there was conjecture about how many deaths that there were going to be from this, but we talked in the previous segment, we talked about preparedness, and we talked about how important that is, and you might address that and how that Philippine Red Cross Society was prepared enough that they were able to get some folks out of harm's way.
Absolutely. So, you know, there was an unfathomable death toll, there was an unfathomable damage, but it could have been so much worse. The core message of the Red Cross is preparedness. The best disaster is the one that doesn't happen, or at least for which we are fully prepared. And they had evacuated, I believe, over 1 million different people in advance. Before that typhoon hit, they had them evacuated to safe houses, to shelters. So when it hit, obviously there was still a lot of destruction, but that death toll and that injury toll could have been vastly, vastly higher. So that's the message that we preach every single day here, that they do there. You know, prepare. Here in the United States, our tagline is ready in 3, make a kit, stay informed, and make a plan. And so we highly encourage that. Abroad, here, preparedness is the key.
It really is, and that is proof of it, no matter how much, and if you see the vast area that the Philippines covers, there's 76 different islands that are habitable. There's more, probably 4 times that number of islands that are there, but being able to get around to all those and to check on folks just takes time because of the infrastructure that exists there now. And so, Clayton, we're about out of time. I do want to tell you that we are still working in Illinois in serving those folks over there that were hit by those tornadoes. The disasters that we hear about and read about on the news happen every day. I want to tell you that in the last 3 days that our chapter has responded to 7 different fires, and we're working those right now. Those fires for those families, and a family of 7 lost their home last night. Those families, for them, it's as big a disaster as any typhoon or hurricane. So your support of the American Red Cross helps us to deliver our mission. And if you would like to be a part of that volunteer force, there's a phone number that'll be on the screen here in just a few minutes. Give us a call at 635-1132, and we'd be glad to talk to you about how you can be a volunteer. And if you would like to support us in our mission, you can also do that at the same number, or stop by 431 East McCarty Street. We'll be glad to talk to you. Again, thank you for your support of the American Red Cross, and until next time, have a great day.